In life, we tend to identify ourselves based on what we feel connected to the most, and our identity often influences how we choose to live our lives. It influences our language, our dressing, dancing, and also how we interact with each other. Long time ago, people identified themselves through their tribe, but as time has passed, people identified themselves through other things like their nationality, religion, race, and whatever they feel most connected to. Being away from home, either willingly or unwillingly, you slowly develop an identity that's a combination of the culture from your place of origin and that of your current living environment. When I first moved to the US, one of the culture shocks I had was people's awareness of what Africa is. There was definitely a lot of ignorance in my experience. I lived with my aunts in a town in Ohio where there were very few black people. During that time, it wasn't really cool to be African. I remember doing everything I could to perfect my American accent because people made fun of how I talked. As I started to shape my identity in the land of the free, I began to realize how much race had become the center of my identity.
I still see no changes. I wonder how we still got races. I wonder how they say look at the real faces. You doing that you went to one of the places. Now we can't hate this.
The deeper I learned about the history and cultures of Black America, the deeper I wanted to connect with my African heritage. From the moment I got my first camera, I started documenting my journey to rediscovering my tribe.
Tomorrow, do you think we'll be coming back to Abuja or?
No, we're not coming back to Abuja.
Okay.
We'll spend the night in Abuja, then Sunday morning we'll leave for Jos.
Thank God. Thank God we made it.
Coming back home always feels so refreshing. I love seeing all my family, my cousins, uncles and aunts, nieces and nephews, and also seeing how much things have changed or not changed between when we were kids and now. I was born in Jos with my twin brother and 3 older brothers to my lovely parents. I grew up speaking English, but most of the time at home and on the streets, people spoke a lot of Hausa. I learned how to speak Hausa at home and in school, but unfortunately it was harder to learn Mupun. I mainly only heard it when I spent time with my grandparents or when we visited the village our people are from. Jos was one of the first cities to be built during colonial rule in Nigeria. The architecture and infrastructure still reflects the times it was built. Plateau State is generally considered a northern state, and because of this, certain people believe that the tribes in Plateau State are Hausa, but they aren't.
For us as historians and as sociologists, people in the humanities generally, we have try to avoid using the word tribe because we associate it with colonial derogation. So we call ourselves ethnic nationalities or ethnic groups. But I find people in other disciplines still using it, and I don't hold them to ransom. Plateau State has, according to PIDAN, more than 50 ethnic nationalities or cultural groups. There are about 54 or so. And in their list, which I cannot count all, we have what we call the majorities, and the rest of us are the minorities. But the majorities are not like very significant in the sense that they have a commanding population. It's just that their population is slightly higher than others. So among those that will be regarded as majority ethnic groups will be Birom, Mogavul, Ngas, Gomai, Tarok, and then the others are fairly smaller than them. And these ethnic nationalities are classified by linguists into two major linguistic classifications, Chadic speakers and Benue Congo speakers. The Mupun people belong to the Chadic speaking groups, and if we take them as a cluster, they would be the largest in Plateau State.
Just imagine having 53 ethnic groups on the plateau. Each of these 53 has different culture, different foods, different dances, different costumes. We already have a carnival float. Plateau State is a blessed state.
Growing up in the Nigerian education system, we learned about Greek civilizations and empires, we learned about Roman empires, but we didn't really learn that much about African empires prior to our colonization. Nigerian history and social studies usually just started from, when we gained independence from colonial rule.
In those days, before the coming of colonialism, we had village states.
So in the early years of when Nigeria was still being built as a nation, before the 36 states that we have today were established, different communities were unable to advance technologically and develop into cities like Jos. Most of the time, families left their communities in search of opportunity to survive colonial Nigeria. The underdeveloped communities, often called villages, became what most of the rest of the world often depicted as Africa, a place that needed saving. The reality for me is that the village, with its huts, is where my father was born.
This village is called Wanzum Tilengten, and just a few blocks from here, the land belongs to the Jiblek people where we all come from. But on this place and up to in this direction, the land belongs to the Muaval tribe of Mangu local government. But we are Jiblek people from Pangshin local government, and the entire population of this village are Jiblek people. We are from a section of Jiblek called Adeng. So we're hoping Adeng now, by virtue of the development, has become a village within the Jiblek district. This place is very significant for me because this is where I was born, right inside here.
So historians believe that the indigenous ethnic groups in the plateau, some of them are products of internal migration, but basically largely products of the Nok culture. I know the Nok culture goes back to several centuries BC. It's older than Borno as an empire. And then if we look at the history of Africa or the world generally, scientists generally have established that the origin of humankind is in Africa. So if the origin of humankind is in Africa, then it makes no real sense for some people to draw what we call Hamitic hypothesis into the origins of people. So if you meet many Mupun people, many Mokavul people, many Ngas people, they will tell you that they came from Borno, and they don't even stop there. They even say they came from Sudan, they came from the Middle East. But then these are stories influenced by the Bible or Quran. They have no scientific basis. In fact, when you came, I was reading somebody's manuscript, and he says Mupun people all came from the Garden of Eden. And yes, so I'm trying to tell him that I'm trying to mitigate it by saying that, look, this is based on your belief as a Christian, but there's no scientific basis for it. And I cannot say you can't say so. So the ethnic groups come from different parts, like the Mupun people. The immediate place of origin of the Mupun people are the neighboring communities, Gomai land, Ngas land, Mogavul land, Bokos, and that is why if you have heard of something called Nyam, and this Nyam is something that identifies a Mupun person with the place he comes from. So you find people saying Jelbang Mudu, Tambes Shiblang, Nendaingang. So these are all within Pangshin, Gomai, Mokavul land.
Historians are divided. There are two schools of thought. You see, I am an oral historian. I have a flair for history, but mine is purely oral. What we got from our ancestors is that we, as Mupun people, Gas people, Mukavul people, Gamay people, the Kwakala, the Dumak, the Kofiara, all those within the Chadic language family came all the way from Yemen, the Middle East. Not the present day geopolitical Yemen. When you talk of Yemen in those days, it cut across from the Yemen itself, right through Ethiopia, Sudan, okay? And then you come down. From there, we crossed over to Ethiopia, Sudan, Chad, Borno, before coming through Yobe, Gombe, down Bauchi, then we went down to Kororofa, some of us, not all, but some of the groups. And the Mupun happened to be along that. Went down to Kororofa, came back to Jelbang, then started coming up again. Some went as far as Turonland and other places. Then those that could not discover their kith and kin started roaming around until finally they went back to Mupunland and located them. Now that is the oral history. That is the oral history. So when you talk of the Nok civilization, that thing is still under scrutiny. Yes.
Man, I find history to be rather confusing, to be honest. Like, I'm trying to make sense of all this. I'm part of the Mupun tribe, right? And my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, several generations back, all have been tied to this collective, this ethnic group called Mupun. And according to historians and scientists, were part of a larger group of people that trace their lineage to a civilization called the Nok civilization. Some other historians believe that the Mupun people came from Yemen or in the Middle East. They claim that we came from there all the way to Nigeria. And so my own confusion is that, did we come from Yemen to the Nok civilization around that time, or when did we come from Yemen is the question that I like to ask, you know. And also, like, this Nok civilization, it's praised for how advanced it was because it moved from Stone Age to Iron Age without going through Bronze Age, which is not normal for civilizations of that time. Civilizations usually went from Stone Age to Bronze Age and then to Iron Age. And so the artifacts that have been dug up by archaeologists, these artifacts right now are not even in Nigeria. Not a lot of them. There are a few in the Jos Museum, but not a lot of them are even in Nigeria. You know, the artifacts of the Nok civilization go way back to like 900 BC or 500 BC, and it was based on the findings by archaeologists that they started this museum.
The very first object that was found that gained insight to Nok civilization, the discovery was made in Nok community in the present day Kaduna State. The commission has an office there now, where a Jama head was found way back in 1949. This object came to the knowledge of the first archaeologist that worked in the commission, which was a Bernard Fag. He was in Jos then. Because before this time, there had been tin mining operation in Jos and the environment. So through the digging, some objects have been discovered. And before this time, that is Benafat, had discovered an object of terracotta too, a monkey head that he kept in Jos. So when he heard about this, the finding in Nok, so he became curious. It was brought to Jos. The first object of noticeable artwork now that was found was at Nok. So that is why they just named all other ones. And that is how we have Nok. Let's digress a bit now. We talk of Ife civilization, we talk of Benin civilization, also objects that have a uniformity. They just bring one name to answer for this collective. So that when you hear Nok culture, we are talking of terracotta objects. The objects that were acquired, they were radiocarbon dated, and they dated between 900 BC and 200 AD. So they were similar in outlook, though there are little differences, but they were similar in outlook. So that makes anyone who has interest in art will become curious. These objects were found in 5 states now: Benue, Niger, Kaduna, Plateau, and Abuja itself. So this environment, if we are going to look at it in mileage, it covers about 500 and 200 square meters. The wide area it covers, where this tradition was practiced, made it spectacular. The technology, the fired clay, they are not easily broken. They were fired at a higher degree of heat than ordinary pot. That technology too, at that time, calls for question. And if you look at that area today, these areas are not mono-ethnic. They are multi-ethnic, diverse group of people that are there. So it would be wrong for us today to say Nok civilization is Hausa, is Nupe, is Tiv or Idoma or Juku. That would be very wrong. But two, there are so many questions that come to play. You might ask yourself, where are these people? Where did they go? Where did they come from?
One thing that I find interesting is that many articles and many historians and scientists claim that the Nok civilization mysteriously vanished. And so I find it rather, interesting that they say we mysteriously vanished, but then here we are as Mupun people, as Ngas people, saying that we trace our lineage back to the Nok civilization. Why would they say we mysteriously vanished if we're still here? In 2015, my twin brother and I visited the village where my father was born. It was actually the first time I went to my father's hometown with a camera. This trip was what inspired me to go on the journey of making this documentary.
Langles.
So, second.
To jikadin ne nan puno kan jiblik ne aman kane. Dalili de kane ape de get yam ne. Ba man ba mushiri ya ke yam langkang moka. Ana di get ne jul be yam jiblik mo san to tun shike yam langkang mo kan mang itna mo gas di shen be get mo chika lamat mo. To di vel no kuma get ne ame ngunan wuri do ne mo kachana gwana be mo cha tu su men be mo pet ne an tu shike. To ba ta dalili min be mo dinga ka shin jel ni nan fu mo mak yak mo shalle mo dia pus ana pus mo wete di se pa mo shin am mo ka ba mo shin bi se mo ka to ba jel ni yo lebe aman get ngunan fu da kumis ne awur get a yit ke yem jiblik mo pe ka ko ngil mo vel ana dalili di basana to kuzu dan yem lan kan mo dinga shin jel to be kuzu gwar yol kudun gwar ka kudun yil pes ngulan ka hutu be de yil ni na me mo avul bo lengten kena ba wala nuka tutu kut yem langkang
to
let's go down now.
I just to give you that
The chicken?
can't say no.
How?
This is great. Wow.
ana di yan petang mo
Okay.
aklexin ya wala tulu ni tulu do yam di tundi mu murang ko urang ban ni se to tulu ni gomre bisa na ne ate sejati jene an ni sha du ba dalili mo mu bes ni be dia ne tulu di tundi mu yon langkang da man yem puno da man get puno yem langkang mo ani mo pela kopna wukul sim kopna ki kopna ni yon den gang ba ka kan mo deng nang mo cha ta tong den gang be manu pela den gang to kopna na deng dir yo wa da mo yon la be ni
Red.
Yeah, no.
Nah. Thank you. Sipping some kunu.
Aba mun tinyare mu team. Let's go ba. Yeah.
Baba, come on.
Oh, no.
Vepa, asa wani vepa.
Okay.
Vepa?
Ana yi gargajiya da shi haka.
Okay.
So haka.
Sa. Kasa. Ga shi sofa mu suna nan. Su sa wani haka. Sai su yi. Can ya kira wa kyau.
Okay.
Sai nuna masa abinda yana faruwa a cikin duniya. Irin wannan.
Oh, okay. Yana crash. Duk. Okay.
Musa kenan.
Anytime I talk about the Vwang festival, it gives me such nostalgia. It takes me back to several years back when I was growing up, trekking from one village to the other across the mountainous areas of Mupun land. I feel nostalgic about it, but I feel so grateful to God to come from a place like the Mupun land. We're on our way now to Langkang. People call it Langkang village, but I call it Langkang city. It's the headquarters of the Mupun nation, and of course the Mupun people are people that derive their culture from the Nok culture in the Chadic region in Africa. They have traveled wide with a few other tribes that you will see their languages a bit similar, and finally settled in this beautiful land full of mountains undulating. I hope one day we get to just make it one of the world tourist centers. Now, when you talk about the word Vwang, Vwang meaning it's like to renew, to rebut, to make new. And the Vwang festival is celebrated annually by the Mupun people to commemorate the period where young boys are transited from childhood to adulthood, usually in the mid to late teenage years. And now it has assumed a wider dimension where we come together from all over the world to, Mupun land, to Langkang, the headquarters, to celebrate this great festival. You see a lot of dances, you see a lot of traditional, mimicking what the traditional worship is, even though that is almost getting extinct now.
In the traditional past, for you to become a man, sitting here with me, for me to regard you as a man, you must pass through that ritual. So every 7 years, in every village, they organize their own Vwang ritual. And it was usually after the boys had been circumcised. So after the circumcision, they will gather boys of about the same age or about very close range ages, and then take them to the group and initiate them in the cultures, in the traditions of the people. Basically, they would teach them how to be brave, how to maintain their houses, how to fight for the village, how to stand up for the village. So it was like an orientation program for patriotism, for hard work, and for staying as a man. So after that, you would be regarded as separate from other boys that had not gone through it.
It takes over a year to pass through the whole process before you come to the climax on the day of Pun, when they graduate from the forest. They are conscientized, mobilized. Awareness is really created amongst them. They teach them so many things. How to live as a family man, how to move in the society. And there are certain do's and don'ts. You don't associate with people anyhow. You don't eat anyhow. You don't drink anyhow. You don't move to places anyhow. You must be security conscious. And anything that will go against the grains of the religion, you don't go near it. You must defend. The day that you will come out, all women that know her child has gone for that ritual, they will come out from their houses celebrating that her son has become a man. That is where we derive the name Vwang.
You did one?
Yeah. Wow. Me and Johnny. Then Mr. J just refused to do it. So the Vwang, actually, you know we're Christian now, so there is nothing you write about it now. It was then that they will just brainwash you that if you allowed anybody to know about what you do or anything, you just die like that. Sure.
No one still does Vwang. And the reason why they stopped is because it had elements of murder. If a group of people, maybe 50 boys, 100 boys in a village and neighboring communities were gathered, and one of the boys made a mistake, all the boys could be killed. And they say, Njiwakajep, that means the ancestors had gone home with them. But that literally meant all of them would be killed.
By the story we heard about that one is associated with people with evil intention. You understand? Then they will come and tell people Njiwakajep, which all of them, they either go. I think all of them will go. No one will come back. None will come back.
Like none of the children?
None will come back. Even if they are 100. They will leave one child. Child will come and stand far away and sing a song. And the meaning of that song that they should see him. If they see him and know, after finish of that song, he will go back. He's gone under finish. On hearing of that song, all women that know her son has gone there, she started crying. So you see crying from houses. So they say G work jep, and that's all.
The Vwang is a test in bravery, it's a test in manhood. So if anyone demonstrated that he was a weakling, they could be killed. Now, if my own son was killed in this round, the next 7 years you organize another one, I will make sure that I do everything possible for one of the boys in that group to make mistakes so that we kill them. So when Christianity came, people said, no, this doesn't make sense. We cannot continue to kill our children.
Wow. I definitely won't be here if my dad went through the Vwang rite of passage ceremony and didn't make it out like some of his peers. Even though Vwang is not practiced anymore, we have similar traditions today, like the Man O' War program in high school or secondary school, and the National Youth Service Corps or NYSC program that every Nigerian is supposed to do after college or university. Both programs promote teamwork, discipline, and community service. Just like how Vwang was to help young boys become men in the Mupun culture, NYSC is designed to empower and prepare the youth to be working citizens of Nigeria. It is basically a one-year program where youth are sent to different regions of Nigeria to serve in areas such as community development and skills acquisition. While making this documentary, I decided to partake in the NYSC program, and during my year of service, I was sent to Edo State, but after my camp at Okada, I was able to be redeployed back to Abuja. The whole experience was definitely eye-opening. What I have come to realize is both the Vwang rite of passage and programs like NYSC are affected by people using them the wrong way. It just shows how good ideas can be spoiled when they are not used for the right reasons. I also find it interesting that the introduction of Christianity was one of the main reasons Vwang was gotten rid of, just like many other African traditions. Yet, under our newfound religions, corruption still haunts programs like NYSC.
Our religion was Kum, called Kum, ancestral worship.
As in Christianity, we have Jesus Christ. The ancestors stood in the way of the replacements for Jesus Christ because they are the ones that link the people to God. So they cannot approach God directly. They have to go through the ancestors. So it was not as if they worship the ancestors, but it was believed that anything you give the ancestors, they will carry it to God, and then they will mediate for you, they will appease for you, they will intervene for you and intercede for you.
God in Mupun is purely feminine. We call God Na-Nan, Na-Nan, not Danan. Danan is a concept of Christianity. Calling God Da, that is male. But in Mupun traditional religion, we call God Na-Nan, it's purely feminine.
The ancestors are called Nji. Yeah. So the ancestors can only be people who had been initiated. If you have not been initiated, you will never be NG. And then old women who are virtuous, who are respected, could qualify to be a female ancestor. And when they are dancing those ancestral dances for those rituals, you hear the Matnji, she will be raising her female voice.
There are two major denominations in the Kum itself, the Mupun traditional religion. There are just two denominations. One we call the Vwang, okay? Then the second one is the Ninen. And this Vwang of Mupun, the cultural festival we hold annually called Vwang, is derived from the activities of the Kum. Okay? It has a process. So the Vwang itself is the climax of the whole process. And before you get to that position, you have to go through every step. And step 3 is the Nawar deity or the goddess. You have to see that Nawar, and it is done in the middle of the night.
What was that thing that you say once if you see it? What do they call it?
noir.
Noir.
Yeah. Woman doesn't see noir.
And so you saw it?
I saw it.
And did he talk to you?
He talks.
He talks?
It's only the traditional worshippers that understand the language.
Yeah.
She understand and they will interpret it. And that thing, very, very surprisingly, it was true. Even if you steal anything, immediately it will just say it or expose you. I was so surprised. Because I could remember when we were kids then, it happens in our village.
Thank God, I out of curiosity, I actually experienced it myself. They had something like a goat skin that they wrapped the object with, and every neophyte is asked to sit, and then they would be chanting certain words in a language that nobody could decipher or decode except by the priests.
The world was interpreted in like somehow mystical forms. So if someone was very sick and they tried to get the herbs and the herbs are not working, they will go to a diviner. The diviner will do his divination and give them the result. So divination was carried out to discover whether somebody was going to live or going to die. Or if somebody was missing, divination will tell you that if you follow this path, you will find the person. So divination could explain or could give direction. If they were going for war, they will say, okay, we're going for this war. Are we going to be successful or are we going to be defeated? In the same manner, if they were going for hunting, so war, hunting, they must perform divinations before they went out.
Nenen, that denomination practices the Vwang festival. Okay, the Vwang, real Vwang. And the Vwang is just even part of it. It's a drop. The actual name is Pun, from which the name of the tribe is derived. Mupun. Okay, Mupun. What is the meaning of the word Mupun? Mupun. It's not just a name like that, because every name has some import. It has history behind it. So Pun is a religious ceremony which is what we call the rites of passage for young adults to graduate into adulthood, okay, after following those due process. Now, Pun, only males pass through that thing. That's the Nenen, Jinenen. But the other denomination, Vwang, they don't practice that. Their own is different. But this is the common one. I know it has not been completely wiped out. There are still some elements, few elements of idolatry, but these are done secretly, not openly. Christianity has taken over the land.
Allah mu na sama, ci gaba da karfafa mu ka ci gaba da mana ta'azi. Mun kammala wannan sashi kenan, za mu koma makabarta, bari dukan abubuwan da za mu yi, bari sunanka ya samu ɗaukaka. ruhu mai tsarki ka yi abin da kai kaɗai za ka yi a cikin wannan rasuwa. Mun gode da mun ka saurare mu da mun yi roƙon nan a cikin sunan Yesu shine Ubangiji. Amin. To zan roki majiyan karfi.
For burial, there were dances, and those ones would not occur on the day of burial. We had two types of burial. There was the real burial in which somebody's corpse was dropped to the grave, and then there was the symbolic burial that was done for chiefs, the Mishkoms, and rich people. So for the rich people and the Mishkom, it was done after 7 years of burial. They'll come and exhume the corpse, bring the ancestors, kill a dwarf cow, and then the ancestors will dance. So only people who had been initiated, who had gone through dance, Vwang, will participate in that dance. Anyone who had not participated is not qualified.
It is customary for us here that when people die, the corpse is taken back to the village where they come from. It serves two purposes. One principally is because it enables the people in the village to know that indeed this person that was said to have died has actually died, and that they have buried him in this place. And then secondly, it helps in the mourning period, that it gives a sense that the person has gone back home and he is now back to where he originated from. Here in this tomb, you'll find our late Baba K.S. DAKUM, who is the father of Jack DAKUM. You know, you find the body of late Bulus DAKUM. He is the father of Victor, Terry, and Salome DAKUM. And then here you also find the body of my own brother Moses DAKUM, and then Dina DAKUM. Dina was the only girl that was born to my mom and dad. So she also passed on in her early 20s, and she also was buried here. Then here, of course, is your eldest brother, Daniel DAKUM. He also, this is where the tomb is also located. So it holds a lot of significance for us, because it's like this is the final resting place. But of course, for us that are children of God, we are Christians, we know that our resting place is where Jesus Christ is.
Corn.
Where are we going?
To America.
No.
To Jubilee.
I have very vague memories of when I was little, and my family would always go to my dad's village for Christmas. I noticed there was a tradition within a couple of my friends' families too, where Christmas time always meant going back to the village. Life is a cycle of us constantly seeking better education, and better means of making a living to provide for your family. At some points, my grandfather left our village in search of a better life in Zaria. Along the line, my dad moved from Zaria for a better life in Jos. We also moved to Abuja at some point, and eventually we moved to America, all in search of a better life. Now as we grow, going back to the village starts hitting differently. I know it has something to do with the connection we feel to the land. The fact that many of our ancestors and people from our clan considered this land as somewhere that provided them with a better life.
We're going to see that DAKUM, and it will be good for you to really kind of talk with him. His name is DAKUM Durkum, and in the family tree related to DAKUM, Durkum, they are all from the same father. The root is Parkat, so Durkum is a family tree, DAKUM is a family tree. So within that, our family tree, DAKUM Durkum, he is the oldest living in Jiblik here. of our own family line. So we're going there to go and just introduce folks around and let him see everybody.
Okay.
Hi.
Where are we?
We are in Jiblik.
Ana kan dafa ne. Na hankali.
He is like our father in this place. This place is called Adeng. Adeng is part of Jiblik. So when we say we are from Jiblik, if you come to Jiblik, they will say, where in Jiblik are you from? Then they'll say, we are from Adeng in Jiblik. So Jiblik is the name of our village. Adeng is the name of our Angwa.
Not Banzu.
No. Okay. So a lot of the families and then the Parkat Comrade tree that forms the tree moved to Wanzum in search of farmland, and there was a little issue related to tax, so they moved there and said that since they're giving them wahala here, they would rather go and pay their taxes there. So they moved and formed Wanzum. So that Wanzum land, half of it belongs to our people. The lower part near the mountains. Go back.
Anytime we come into the village, one thing my family loves to do is go hiking into the mountains. It's actually a vibe out there. We go there for different reasons though. The first reason is that there's higher chances of your phone getting better network when you're up there. It's very serene, quiet, peaceful, and it has nice views. There's also structures there that date back to hundreds of years ago, where they tell us that our great-grandparents stayed. Now, no one currently stays in the mountains, but when we go there, we hear stories about how there were homes there and how our people used to use the top of the hills as safe havens.
There's one Baba that sits here. The guy was gifted. So anytime they go for war and fight, if somebody comes back injured, then he can stay around here. Then late in the night, like 2-3 a.m., the Baba will come out. When he sees him, by the time it's morning, it's like that person was never in any battle or anything. Legend has it.
Yeah, I think that commitment mine or something. Yeah.
The lack of documentation of our history has had long-lasting ripple effects that could end in the extinction of different cultures, especially those of minority tribes. So a lot of our history depends on oral traditions. And for me, I got the best stories anytime I came to the village. As our family grew, it became impossible for us to come to the village and spend the nights in the hut my father was born in because we were too much. A few years ago, during my mom's birthday, she surprised my dad with a project she had been secretly working on. That project was a new house in the village.
So how did you know? She told me on the birthday. Oh, it was your own birthday.
Yes.
So we were busy trying to give her a gift, then she gave a gift.
A house.
A house. So if you like, complete it. If you like, don't complete it. Where is the Amaria and the Ango?
They are like wrestling up.
They are very tired.
No, they are.
Yes.
It's a mind-blowing kind of a thing.
It's definitely
More house you were not aware of.
We out here.
Oh yeah.
We out here.
Where we at?
Jibs.
In the
Jiblik.
jibs.
Jiblik. Made it 2019.
Still going strong. Let me tell you how it feels to be,
You know, we've been married for 2 days now.
Married for 2 days.
You know,
I wouldn't say it has always been easy.
It's not been easy.
But
in the beginning, it was.
Yeah, you know, during the honeymoon, it was really nice. But a few hours later,
Now
you know, the
kind
challenges
of settled
came
into
through.
the life, and
now we're kind of seasoned, and so we're going strong. Yeah.
That's my brother Paul, and he just got married to Deborah 2 days ago. After dating for some time, when Paul decided he wanted to marry Deborah, he traveled to her hometown, Koi, with my family and close relations for an introduction of both families to each other. During that introduction, they discussed the dowry and offerings Deborah's family needed to grant Paul consent to marry their daughter. A few days ago, we came to Koi with bags of rice, yards of fabric, and several other provisions as a dowry to our family. To me, I see this practice not as one that commodifies young girls, but as an honorary gesture to prove to a family that you can take care of their daughter. It's sad when people misuse this type of practice. Anyways, in true African fashion, presenting a dowry turned into a whole traditional celebration with lots of food, dancing, and prayers. And you'd think that's all. A few days later in Jos, there was a wedding in the church where they said their vows before God, exchanged rings, and of course there was more dancing and spraying money afterwards. From the traditional celebration, to the church wedding, to going to a court to declare your marriage, I find it interesting how over time the traditions of weddings are being shaped and transformed. I wonder how different weddings were back in the days.
There were various types of marriages. Now, as you are, your father would have pledged a young girl to you on the day of her birth. So if a man has a son, he would watch out for women to put to bed. As soon as the girl is delivered, he will just move to their house, carry a lock of wood, give the mother, and that's a form of engagement. And eventually the children will grow, perhaps not knowing what is happening, but every year, the parents of the boy will be taking food items, mahogany oil, to keep her until she is ripe enough for marriage. Then they will come and take her. Then the second type was, if you didn't have money for that kind of process, as you are grown now, you see a girl, you like her, you just organize your group. You say, look at that girl, go and catch her for me. On her way to the stream, they will lay her, catch her, she will be crying, cursing them, and they will be singing, and they will disappear with her, take her to your uncle's house. Then you go and join her, she is married.
Na da wancan man samu kai dai in kana son yarin dama kuna son juna an da din kawai in kana sai biya same ta ko za ta je diba ruwa rafi za biya kama ta kawai ya tafi da shi ta tafi aure kenan
kai
a da ba
so
za kama yarinya kawai kamar yadda gashi matan nan suna tafiya su biyu ba to in kowa ne a ciki sai zaka kama maka wanda naka din can a loka aje a wuya haka ka gani haka a wuya waɗansu su rike nan ana tafiya da ita tana kuka tana ihu tana ihu an tafi da ita kenan sai aure.
During that whole process, is she ever notified that somebody is eyeing her?
Of course.
Is she ever told before she's taken?
Of course, sure. They have their connections now. They have their informants. He has his own, she has hers. So they will always relate, but undercover. Yeah, some people think they will just do it just like that. No. It's proper process. And you know one interesting thing? The moment they pick her on their shoulders, that's a strong person now. She will begin to sing. Yes.
Not scream.
Screaming is just pretending, but right inside here she is rejoicing. The arranged marriages were always the best for the Mupun people. And the reason is this: before you get married, there was always a very serious investigation on the family of your would-be wife. One, does the family have a history of terminal illness? Is the family indebted to somebody? Does that family behave unruly in the community? Is there any history of a thief in the family? And are there witches from that family? You don't marry in a family that has any of those things or is characterized by those things, because you'll be bringing in the negative seed, the bad seed in your own family. And nobody would want that. That was why parents had the final say on who their sons should marry.
Kasa na da din ba auren church ba. Christianity ya shiga idanun mutane ya budu sosai. So ana auren church. Ko ba za ku yi auren church ba ma shirin ku ne ku biyu za ku tafi tare, ka tafi da matanka. Ba kamawa za a yi ba.
Okay.
Yes.
Ah, nice one. So can you auren church?
Ni? Ba yi auren church ba, amma daga baya ne mun sarkake auren. Amma ba wai irin kamawa ba ne.
Okay.
No, a'a.
Wow. Well, I'm ready for the kunu.
We're ready for the kunu now. Mama Charity, Yaronki, why is ready for the kunu?
It's a cultural rite when a young lady is about getting married. Part of the dowry requirements, they bring some materials. Some of them are grains. We have what we call in our local dialect kusu, that is acha, hungry rice. That's the name in English. They bring guinea corn, they bring goat, they bring some soft drinks. So out of all of these materials that is brought, it is shared to all related families. The parents of the bride will share from it. Then her mother's side will share from it. Her grandmother's side, from the mother's side, will equally share from it. And then their relatives, their cousins on the other side, it takes like 4 different lineages that will share from whatever it is. Like what we have here has been shared. Some has been sent to the bride's mother, and they will in turn send to her grandmother's side. So it's along all the connection. Everybody will test out of it to testify that yes, our daughter has gotten married and we are aware.
This is kunu, and I'm about to have some of it. Nice one.
There were various traditional dances. Each village had various kinds of traditional dances, like the Tambes group of Langkang. They had what they call DAKUM. It's from mahogany tree or a particular brand of this thing. It's a hard fruit. So they cut one part of it to create an opening, and then there are smaller openings. They use it to blow and make their dance. But it was really for ancestral worship. And then if you come to your people of Adeng, they had Vwang. This is from cornstalk.
Basically, I'm out here and I'm about to learn how to play the Vwang. I'm just playing. Guys, basically, this is just like a traditional saxophone, and that's what my people play. And you know, I've been trying to learn the saxophone, but I figured, you know, I might as well learn this one too. So, let's get it.
So will I cover here?
No.
No.
Never. Only here.
Yeah.
That's where the sound will come.
what's going on.
So all the villages had one type of traditional dance or the other. Then there was another dance group called the Cock Giraffe. This was for young maidens. And then recently they introduced what we call Kokpo, that is general dance. So if I did something wrong, for example, something despicable, the people in the village will compose a song with my name, and it's a dance of shame. They will humiliate me with that dance, reminding me of what I've done. But then with the coming of Christianity, they now compose Christian songs, general songs, and dance during Christmas and so on. But those traditional dance groups, what they used to do was, during the dry season, they could move from Jiplik or Abo to another village and dance for 1 week. 1 week, they'll just be in that village. The village will welcome them, and they will provide them food. And after the dance, each person will have a friend in that village, and that friend will take him to his own house and feed him for that 1 week. The following year, that groom will return to them, and then your friend will also accommodate you. Now, these were relaxation and friendship exchanges, but there were also opportunities for men to get married. Very good dancers will have what we call Vwang, these women that stand behind them, and then eventually some of them end up in marriages.
We celebrate fair for merriment, and we also celebrate fair during the burial of a leader, which is Mishkom.
Mishkom, that's the apex.
And how did one
ascend to that?
Yeah.
Great. You must have a royal blood. Okay, if you are from a royal family, then in the event that the Mishkom is gone or is removed for whatever reason, or is dead, they would gather all the princes, but the elders would sit in their own hall and then begin to x-ray one prince after the other. They will name this, then they will give an analysis. Say, no, this one is not qualified because of ABC reasons. And they will go on and on until finally they will say, okay, this one, yes, this is the one that can lead our people.
If you are a type of very selfish person, they will never pick you to be a leader. So you have to be very, very good in better relationship with people, presentation, acceptance of people, listening to people's cry towards building the community.
Close to about 25 years ago, we were sitting down with a couple of fellow friends and brothers around from Jiblik side, and what baffled us was the fact that the primary school here in Jiblik was one of the oldest in the whole area. And you find out that children from other nearby villages used to come to Jiblik to school. Other places, those villages that they used to send their kids out for primary school, suddenly had a secondary school. And some were community built, some were government. But for Jiblik, there was no secondary school. So our children living from the oldest primary school and going to a place to do secondary school where they did not even have a primary school in the past. And so for us, it laid a burden. And the burden was what is happening to the future of the Jiblik indigenes here. And so we came together and decided, along with the traditional and the community leaders, to establish a secondary school. We were not rich people, we didn't have any money, but we all felt that if each one brings one, it will amount to what will enable us have a school going. And so we started. And I recall that I paid the salaries of a few teachers to begin for a couple of months. And then by the time I became a commissioner for information and later commissioner for health in 2001, we now were able to have the advocacy using my office to advocate for government to take away the burden of managing the school from the community so that they can face other things. Now, fast forward several years later, we just decided to come on a visit with my wife. And when she saw it, I could just see some kind of burning feeling and desire. She was just feeling so sad that, isn't this the place you people started? Shall we all wait and see it just go down this way? She said that I will save some money. And even if it is just one classroom block, I'm going to renovate it.
Education affects every aspect of your life. In fact, it is the bedrock of any societal sustainable development according to the United Nations. With education, your physical life is enhanced. With education, your spiritual life is enhanced because you get to know your position in God better. And with education, you relate with others socially better because you are enlightened. I was born and grew up in Fan, in Barkinladi local government area of Plateau State. But I have been married for 37 years to the handsomest of men from Aden, Jiblik, Patrick Sunday DAKUM.
Throughout my life, I've had so much to learn from my mother. From her career as a teacher to her creativity and passion for the arts. One thing for sure is I got my artistic spirit from her. I've been thinking about how we often define our ethnicity through our father's side of the family. However, I've come to realize just how important my mom's influence has been in shaping who I am. She's played a crucial role in keeping our family connected not just to each other, but also to our culture. My mother's ethnicity is Birom, and while their culture is similar to the Mupun culture, they have their own unique perspectives and traditions. As I continue this journey, I want to learn more about my mom's culture and the traditions they value. I believe that understanding her side of the family is just as important as exploring my father's lineage. By doing that, I can create a fuller picture of my identity.
You know, the history of a people and their culture, you know, to a lot of us is pretty important. I guess for the more history-oriented or those folks who really respect the traditions in various cultures, it's extremely important that we preserve that and that or that we find out how things were way back for ancient cultures, and preserve the artifacts that we can gather from that. So I think the importance is just that general thing of having better knowledge of how people lived and what they may have contributed in the way of music or thought or art.
When we look at the background, Europeans initially said that we even have no history, that we started making history when they came. But the irony here is that we as a people did not start documenting our history in the Western education style of writing ABC 1, 2, 3 as we have it today. We are talking of these civilizations now because those were the things that was used then, that the people knew then to document their own history.
Well, the unfortunate thing is that when Christianity came to Mupun land, it came with a backlog of Western culture. Now that's the major reason why you don't find a single artifact of Mupun in the museum. Because the missionaries taught us that these artifacts are idols, purely. So we should have nothing to do with them. They are not of any importance, and some of them carted these things away. And we don't know who did it because some of us were not born yet.
If
you have a piece of diamond, as fine as it is. It takes someone who is skilled in cutting the various edges in order for you to see the multifaceted beauty of that diamond piece. So sometimes our treasures have been looted out, okay, and moving from museum to museum, either on loan or buying them off to other museums. They're actually moving such great treasures and passing across such histories, which I feel sometimes our people probably won't be able to do too well for those that are not schooled in that area.
Today we look at it and say, incredible art, and we love it, and we consider it art, but they weren't. Most of the wooden pieces were not made to be art. They were made to deal with fertility or healing, or possibly to put a curse on somebody, if it was a piece for black magic or whatever. Pieces for judgment and so on, and to settle disputes and to prepare for war and all kinds of reasons.
Most of these artifacts you find in people's homes, ancient ones, I tell you, unless those people are delivered, they have an effect on their homes because of the demons behind them. People don't know.
From some research I saw online by a German archaeologist, a lot of the places where they found Nok sculptures looked like this, and so I'm pretty sure here in Jiblik, if we dug these floors, we would find some sculptures, or we would find some artifacts that could tell us more about the livelihood of our people that stayed here.
Nyam. Okay. Nyam, some people think Nyam is just one thing. Nyam means a lot. Nyam is purely poetry. The only aspect that has been over-publicized is it's a statement that you make the moment you sneeze. Somebody sneezes, then you call the Nyam. You are making a reference to your place of origin. But Nyam is more than that. I've analyzed Nyam, and there are 8 or more different types of Nyam. So Nyam is not just one thing. There is the Nyam. When you are farming, you can farm faster than somebody who is not from your own same clan. Then you will just recite the Nyam. And they will say, okay, now this great performer hails from this clan. There is the Nyam. When you are grinding on the grind mill, there is the Nyam. When you are singing praises, you are trying to promote either your lineage, your clan, and whatever. There is the Nyam. When a man offends his wife, you know, she would not, naturally in Mupun, the wife cannot stand and begin to challenge her husband. She will just go to her grind mill, and then she will pour her heart as she brings out all the Nyams she knew. So there are so many. The Nyam that you are promoting your family, Nyam that you are telling people that you have arrived, or you have this, you have that, you know.
And so it was Nyam like different phrases.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not just one thing that makes a Nyam.
And it varies from
family to family, from clan to clan.
So would you then consider Nyam to be like a culture?
It is.
So it's the culture of a family, a culture.
Mm-hmm.
Since it's not just one.
No, it's not.
Culture is not just one.
No,
thing.
no.
There are so many ethnic groups in Plateau. Many, very many. I don't think there's any state in Nigeria that is very many. One thing that is peculiar to this ethnic group is that there are not too many. Small. And I asked myself why. And one of the postulation I got was that those days there was this Kanem Borno Empire, Juku Empire, this Fulani, whatever. And everybody, they were looking for people that they will appropriate as part of their own enclave, as part of their own kingdom. This region, and that's why we call this place Plateau State, is high. So many people escape from the lowland to this place because horses cannot access this place then. If you look at it, there's hardly any large ethnic group that will cover so many, like in Rivers now. Ikwere alone covers about, out of 23 or 20 what local government, they cover about almost 8. We don't have such in Plateau. So I tend to agree that maybe everybody then found this place as a safe haven. They ran up for safety, so that they will not be taken for slavery.
Artists record memories, and looking at some works, the richness of the soil on the plateau, not just the soil, but of course the weather condition is so beautiful, and because of that, so many people are trying to come in to settle on the Jos Plateau.
Plateau State is known in Nigeria as the home of peace and tourism. Despite this, in 2001, the city witnessed violent riots between the divided Muslim and Christian populations, in which several thousand people died.
Before the 2001 crisis, several people have lived together. Several people have stayed together without much issues. But all of a sudden, all of this started happening. So peace is what we all desire. Peace is what we all look forward to seeing. Peace is what we all hope to reign and rule in our society. Terrorism, anarchy, killings, banditry, land grabbing, which is what is happening in so many communities, especially on the Jos Plateau. Several communities have been sacked, several communities have been ravaged, several communities have been pillaged by wicked people in the name of taking over the land from the original people that have such lands.
We are being raped as poor people regardless of Berlin Conference 1884. We are being manipulated towards a future of no freedom again. We're being marginalized. I pray for the African man. I'm not talking about the ones who are the billionaires. I talk about the poor. Go Asia, poor man, be like Biro man. Go America, you go see poor man, poor white redneck. Go Europe, go Caribbeans, come your own country. Capitalism is going to be the end of humanity. If we're just here for these material things, then we're
giving no attention.
If God has to tell us to love ourselves, even animals know better. God, then we're finished. If we have to have religions that the people who are following the religions don't even say we're finished. If a simple human feeling of love and empathy we do not have, then let us, I say this warning today on tape, thank God it can be taped. Let us beware, there is something that is coming.
Jos is home. You know, what do I love most about Jos? Food, weather, people, culture, energy, peace. Like when you're in Jos, you feel the peace. It's tangible. So even at times where there's conflict and strife, you know, you can still feel that this thing is not supposed to be taking place in this place because this is a place of peace. You know, that's J-Town. And music, art, creativity, all are born there, you know, and blossom there.
Even with the, you know, crisis and incidents of insecurity that we've had, I tell my friends, both here in Nigeria and out of the country, that I don't want you to determine whether you can stay in Plateau State by reading about it, but by feeling it. So come to Plateau and feel it. So when you come to Plateau, what do you feel? You feel, first of all, the weather just welcomes you and tells you that this is home, welcome home, irrespective of who you are, irrespective of what your religion is. The weather tells you welcome home. Now, if you now begin to interact with the people, you will also see from the demeanor of the people and from their loving nature, hospitable nature, that this is home, irrespective of where you come from.
Indeed.
The people will tell you, welcome home.
Yeah, we're live as I'm recording this in the city of Jos. But everything has been said about, but we're here. War front, we're here.
God has made Plateau State to be the melting pot of Nigeria. And I believe that the Plateau State that we have is a state that can keep or it can divide the whole country.
Somehow nature has a way of creating such balances. I feel, I might be wrong. Just Plateau. And there's this scripture that says, a city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. I feel we are set on a hill. I feel God placed us on this unique pedestal, you know, for us to display and to exhibit the beauty of creativity and everything. And then from our forebears, we've always known that one of the oldest civilizations of Nok culture can be traced to Jos Plateau State, or part of Jos Plateau State, right down through Kaduna to the village of Nok, to places like Katsina Ala and some other places in the Middle Belt. Okay, so it's a very wide area of coverage when we're talking about cultures of such people. So I believe that Jos is just unique, and people coming into Jos will always find something unique. But the crisis created a lot of downturns, but people are picking up their pieces and they are bouncing back again.
You know, you have taken me back memory lane to the days of Scala Cinema, Rex Cinema, and Kwararafa. Everywhere you go in the north and you meet somebody who came to Jos, they'll tell you they went to a movie. And that movie house is called one of these three. And for us as young men, we used to just ensure that we go there to just watch a movie. Fast forward, and looking at Cockcrow at Down, which was one of the greatest television shows in Nigeria. The artists in the Cockcrow at Down became stars in their own rights. It was all in Jos.
And it was shot here?
It was shot here. Color television and stuff started here on the Plateau, first in Nigeria.
It's like a hub of creativity. It's a melting pot or spots for so many great things, so many talents, musicians, songwriters, visual artists, the various fields of painting, sculpture, ceramics, photography, graphic design, talking about other areas like textiles and all the other forms that you can find in the visual arts. You see them in Jos, and anywhere they go to and they exhibit their works, their creative works, you always see that people will always ask the question, are you from Jos?
I think maybe the point is that if you attempt to do amazing things in your life, that people that come from where you come from can be inspired. And I think that that's the point, because I was so inspired in Jos, you know, that I hope I can live a life that will inspire, you know, young kids from Jos. So that's why I'm out here in New York, you know, pushing that music, pushing that J-Town sound, you know.
Basically, art is a continuum, you know, from ancient history till contemporary moments. And the basic practice of art is one and the same: recording history for that moment so that people in the future can get to see and understand. We all know and believe that civilization started somewhere in Africa, in the ancient Nile Valley, that's in Egypt, and all the Egyptian works that were created, the architectural forms, the hieroglyphics, of course, the paintings that were done on the walls. These works were created as works to deify their kings, their pharaohs, and people that were leaders to them. And it's believed that it's art for eternity. So when you see their creation, you actually have so much to learn from them. Not just in Egypt, of course, we talk about several other art periods in Mesopotamia. We talk about several other art periods in Greece, in Rome. In Nigeria, for instance, we have various art periods or various art historical periods, which we call the ancient traditions of Nigerian art. We have the Nok, we have the Ife, we have the Boku, and then we have the Tada bronzes, works that are so unique, the craftsmanship, the artistic dexterity, the materials that were used, which of course, through archaeological findings, we are still noticing that the technology they had then, even today probably we have it in a more refined form, so to speak, but they have their own form of technology and we are learning from them. Take for instance the Nok art. When we look at the way they fired their works, you know, the kind of firing we are doing today, even though in modern kilns, but when we look at the work of Nok, having passed through alluvial surfaces, buried under the earth over a long period of time, and then they are still sustaining, you know, the beauty of the creation. What we can learn as contemporary artists is whatsoever practice we are doing today, we must record history rightly and correctly so that future generation can actually take a look, enjoy what we are doing, glean from our historical past in order to have a future that is winsome, a future that people can see, a future that people can enjoy, a future that people can see the philosophies that is guiding our kind of creation.
If you think about the anatomy of the human eye, most of the human eye lies largely unseen by others. And what you see of a person's eye is only a fraction of what actually makes them see the world. And I think that is a very appropriate illustration of how we view the world, in the sense that most of what you see about a person is not all that is there to see about them, and most of how they see the world lies within the background of what you don't see about them. And so delving into the past helps us understand how we view the future, and understanding our roots helps us appreciate the fruit of where we are right now, and also helps us cultivate the same things that made us who we are to make us to the people that we want to be in the future.
Beautiful mountains, rivers and fountains, surrounded by trees, as cool as the breeze, the seeds have been sprouting. Beautiful Plateau, home of peace. When testament to our